Hey, Mrparka here to review a new one from Arrow USA, and this is Mark of the Devil. This is just a Blu-ray screener. But I had been familiar with this film before. I think I've seen it a couple times years back, the Blue Underground release, and then there was some, no-budget releases, kind of just like, I think, straight to VHS releases. So it's nice to finally see that Mark of the Devil is going to get a Blu-ray release in the United States. This one is a film by a UK director named Michael Armstrong, who became more of a writer later on as his career progressed. But he obviously kind of had to be inspired, or this movie got notoriety because Witchfinder General, or they were getting made around the same time, so they obviously are going to be compared to each other in history. Witchfinder General starred Vincent Price. This one stars Udo Kier and Herbert Lom. And I must say that I've seen both films. I enjoy both films, but I really do like them about the same. And Mark of the Devil is definitely the most more sadistic and brutal of the two. Released in 1970, probably made during the late 60s, but it basically follows, the whole witchfinder scare of people being falsely accused of witches. And I always felt this kind of worked because it's a piece of our history, although sometimes it gets so over the top, or people do things that you really don't expect them to do. The torture is probably not that over the top, considering how horrible human beings can be in the past, especially during this kind of a situation. But I always was fascinated by this kind of subject matter, and to add in the actors that they had, it is very interesting. Although most of them are dubbed, and I believe some of them are dubbed not in their regular voice like Udo, but Herbert Lom is it's definitely his regular voice, and I'm a big fan of Herbert Lom. Or Lom, I always say Lom, but he was in the Secret Life of Dorian Gray, which is kind of like the softcore, sleazy version of Dorian Gray, which I love that movie, and other things like Dead Zone and the Pink Panther films. Pretty great. The Sec, which is another Italian horror film. A great actor, and he's great in this one. Essentially, what happens is this new witchfinder kind of comes into the town, and he's supposed to have this big sadistic personality, and Udo is like his protege, and he falls in love with this girl, and the Witchfinder General kind of loses his mind in this one. He goes a little too far in getting angry at someone, and he kind of loses, his morals start to get mixed up, and he kind of goes off the deep end. He starts pretty much sentencing people to more extreme torture and things like that, and the whole town gets tortured until they've had enough. And that's essentially the plot of this film. For 1970, the violence is pretty graphic. There's some nudity in here, so it's kind of amazing that this movie was actually, I don't even know if it was even released in the UK. I don't think it ever was. I think later on that it was released. But there's also a great documentary on here about the rise of English horror from Hammer, and how it kind of changed into this more like harder version of, the United States was doing their Texas Chainsaw on their Last House on the Left, and how UK was doing it the same, but kind of with just like the guy who did The Terror and Satan's Slave, Norman Warren, it's skipping my name, and Michael Armstrong, and Michael Reeves, who did, the Witchfinder General, and had a very tragic death, and also Pete Walker. So I've seen some of these films. I'm not an expert on those at all. Like I said, the names are very familiar. I've seen some here and there, but I was very familiar with Mark of the Devil. Like I said, I've seen this a few times. The score in the movie is beautiful, and later was used in, if you guys have, can spot it. I knew when I heard the music, I was like, this, I knew it was from this, but it's got to be from something else that I'd seen even more recent. And yeah, it was later used in Hobo with a Shotgun, which I'm a big fan of, and the score is unforgettable. It's a beautiful score. It is used a lot, so you hear it over and over again. So it's pretty much always in the background of the film. But yeah, if you like witch movies and stuff like that, the kind of torture, it's not like I'm a huge torture fan, but I just like the historical kind of, it actually happened at some point in history, and the uprising against them and things like that. The guy who plays Albino is probably one of the creepiest looking guys ever, and he's just so sleazy and disgusting. There's lots of characters in this movie that you just feel like you want to jump in the screen and strangle them yourself. I like that kind of helplessness feeling. And like I said, although dubbed, a lot of the performances I believe are strong. I'd really recommend this one. The picture looked really good. I was impressed with how the picture looked. I've seen the Blue Underground release years ago, but I want to say it was better than that. That was just a DVD, of course, and like I said, it sounded good, and it had a good amount of special features on here, which were very cool. Interviews and things like that, audio only for Herbert. But he passed, I believe, last year, I think, actually, or 2 years ago. But anyways, this is a, kind of a cult classic, nasty movie that's pretty infamous. And I think that it lives up to the hype, especially for the time, and I think it's a good movie, and I think it's a, awesome. I mean, it's not as good as something like The Devils, but that's pretty hard. But I do really enjoy the film, and I enjoy the kind of falsely accusing people of being witches and things like that. That just, like I said, is fascinating to me. But yeah, Mark of the Devil, it should be out very shortly, or it may have just been released. I think Diabolic DVD is selling copies and things like that. Amazon has it, but it's a Blu-ray DVD combo, and looking forward to what else Arrow's going to release here. I know they have some big titles coming up, which I'm actually pretty surprised by, like Society and things like that, and Spider Baby. So good stuff to look forward to, and I'll probably be picking up the real copy of this as well. But that is Mark of the Devil. I'm Mrparka. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.
Confess that you've been guilty of witchcraft. Stop that witch!
She is a witch. A beautiful girl, I grant you, but a witch. She will confess.
You say and preach one thing while you do another.
Und wenn du auf Knien um dein Leben bettelst, im Namen der Gerechtigkeit, im Namen des Himmels, beschuldige ich dich, dass du das Kruzifix getreten und an Walpurgis in den Sauttrog geworfen hast.
What I call fun violence or softened down violence, I think is dangerous because it tends to make it acceptable to watch. In those days, nobody was trying to gross out anyone. That came later.
That was one of the great giveaway gimmicks that they had back in the 70s, was the Mark of the Devil vomit bag.
Ich wurde durch den Film bekannt, wie man sieht, ich bin am Plakat da oben, leiden, schreien.
I am the witchfinder in this town.